Now, an ex-royal staff member has opened up about his time working at Buckingham Palace. Dan Ottaway, who served as a chef, claims that out of all of the royals that he catered for, Prince Andrew was difficult and more demanding than others. I mean, he's certainly not getting a good rap.
New allegations have once again come to light regarding the behavior of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor toward those who worked around him. Over the years, multiple claims have surfaced suggesting he routinely treated royal staff, police officers, and public servants with arrogance, rudeness, and open contempt, often without facing any real consequences. This is not a pattern based on whispers or tabloid exaggeration, but a consistent narrative repeated by people who were directly exposed to his conduct in professional settings. What makes these latest revelations especially serious is their source. They are not anonymous online rumors or secondhand stories. These accounts come from individuals who worked inside royal households, served in security roles protecting senior royals, or encountered Andrew during official duties. Many of them have spoken openly and on the record to respected royal biographer Andrew Loney, adding credibility and weight to their claims. One former royal staff member described Andrew's behavior as so aggressive and dismissive that it pushed him to the edge of losing his composure, admitting he felt close to physically confronting the prince. This paints a picture not of isolated bad days, but of a long-standing attitude problem that was tolerated behind palace walls, raising serious questions about accountability, privilege, and how such behavior was allowed to persist for so long.
And what he says is, look, everybody loved the royals. He loved serving them for many, many years. But Prince Andrew was quite difficult, and he was much more demanding, in the words that he used, than his relatives. But he had a lot of praise for Princess Kate.
Others describe a long-standing pattern of behavior that went far beyond occasional rudeness. There are repeated accounts of Andrew barking orders, ignoring basic manners, and expecting automatic deference simply because of who he believed himself to be. What makes these stories especially significant now is timing. Andrew no longer holds royal titles, military honors, or any official public role. The institutional protection that once shielded him has largely disappeared, and as that protection has fallen away, people who dealt with him behind closed doors have begun speaking more openly. Despite this, he is said to continue behaving in the same way within Royal Lodge even today. The center of these allegations is not a single outburst, but years of conduct many describe as entitled, demeaning, and unchecked. One recent account comes from Colin Burgess, who served as equerry to the late Queen Mother. Burgess was experienced, senior, and deeply familiar with royal protocol. He recalled seeing Andrew roughly once a month during visits to Clarence House and said Andrew's manner towards staff was consistently abrupt and commanding. The moment that nearly pushed him over the edge occurred when Andrew entered Clarence House and demanded an item be wrapped. It was delivered not as a request, but as an order, reinforcing what Burgess viewed as a deeply ingrained sense of superiority.
Excess. So there's no love lost between the chef and Prince Andrew and Fergie.
That incident reflected a broader attitude. Burgess later stated that Andrew had always been arrogant and that he viewed people in policing or public service as beneath him. His assessment was blunt. Andrew's manners were awful and his behavior did little to endear him to those around him. But these allegations extend beyond personal interactions. There have also been repeated reports of reckless conduct. Staff at Windsor Great Park said Andrew had a reputation for driving dangerously around the estate, forcing pedestrians to jump out of the way. One staff member even compared him to Toad of Toad Hall. In 2010, Andrew was reportedly involved in an incident in which he struck a police officer while speeding into Buckingham Palace. The officer allegedly suffered an arm injury and filed a complaint, but according to later accounts, no action was taken. Years earlier, in 2002, Andrew was stopped for driving 60 miles per hour in a 40-mile zone. When pulled over, he reportedly refused to exit the vehicle, leaving his protection officer to deal with police. The standard penalty would have included a fine and points on his license, yet Andrew was excused after reportedly saying, "I'm in a hurry." In his book entitled Author Andrew Loney draws a sharp contrast between how different members of the royal family treated staff. He writes that King Charles viewed the Queen Mother's staff as companions, while Andrew saw them simply as employees there to be ordered about.
Well, there are reports that Prince Andrew has agreed to vacate the Royal Lodge. However, he wants Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's former UK home, Frogmore Cottage.
What emerges from these accounts is not a single lapse in judgment, but a sustained pattern of behavior reinforced by rank and protected by status for years. Now that Andrew is no longer shielded by royal roles or honors, these stories are being viewed in a far harsher light. Without the institutional buffer of the monarchy, conduct once tolerated appears increasingly indefensible. In recent weeks, a new wave of documents, emails, and photographs linked to the Epstein files has added fresh context to The ongoing scrutiny of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's associations and conduct. The U.S. Department of Justice has released emails from the early 2000s referring to someone identified only as at Balmoral asking Ghislaine Maxwell whether she had found me some new inappropriate friends. The language has prompted renewed questions about Andrew's social circles at the time and the environments in which they mixed. These emails also reference arranging trips and company while traveling abroad, which, while not proving criminal conduct, add to concerns about judgment and associations. Photos from the same collections show Andrew in informal social settings with Maxwell and others in spaces connected to royal properties, highlighting how far members of Epstein's circle were allowed access to areas traditionally reserved for the family's private life. British reports have also confirmed that Andrew surrendered his firearms license following the loss of his royal honours and was later seen alone near Windsor Castle after being excluded from the royal family's Christmas celebrations, while his daughters attended with King Charles and Queen Camilla. Royal commentators have also revisited previously reported controversial party favours.
But officially, obviously, stripping Andrew of his royal titles, as I said last week, was going to require an act of parliament. And there's enormous property that he's in, which has become a massive focus for the general public.
Items reportedly discovered after some of Andrew's private gatherings at royal palaces included objects described as sexually suggestive accessories, contradicting earlier portrayals of those events as harmless shooting weekends and adding to the perception of long-standing inappropriate behavior at private functions. Taken together with years of staff accounts describing his treatment of subordinates and ordinary people, these recent disclosures reinforce a consistent pattern in which Andrew viewed himself as superior, entitled to special treatment, and above consequences that would apply to others. While none of the latest files prove criminal wrongdoing by Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor himself, they make this pattern clearer than ever in the public record. This is not about rewriting history, but about listening to those who were present and acknowledging what they say they experienced. What do you think? Do you believe the allegations against Andrew? Do you think he will ever change? For more reporting on the royal family and Andrew's latest controversies, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching.